Hi folks, how are you doing? I'm the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston in the northwest of England. And today I'm offering this devotion as a balm for the heart, for the mind, for the spirit and the soul. It is titled Aftermath, Living in the Layers of Life. So I invite us just to still ourselves. Let's invite a loving presence to be here amongst us and to awaken from deep, deep within us all. I have lit the flame of freedom in this cup of belonging, acceptance, and love. We join together, physically separate, but united in our devotion to life and to love. Help us to sing for joy, like the birds each morning sing their faith, being alive and being here. May we know the deep connections that sustain us, the roots that hold and nurture us beneath the surface of our lives. May we not be afraid to explore the depths of being, the many layers of life. May we remember that we are deeply connected in heart, mind, spirit, and soul. May we be open to all that this day brings, to all that life offers, and may we offer our all to life. May our very being become a vessel for love this day and in all the days to come. Now, as some folk know, I have a deep love of the origins of words. I have a keen interest in old words that have gone out of common usage, or words that have a fascination really for words that have changed in meaning over time. One of my favourite things on social media, on Facebook, is the grandiloquent word of the day. It just brings up such fun words, really, such interesting words. And I recently learned the origins of the word aftermath. In its common understanding, aftermath means the consequences or after effects of a significant unpleasant event. There is, though, a second meaning, and it's a farming term meaning new grass growing after mowing or harvest. And this second understanding of aftermath is closer to the original meaning of aftermath, which dates back to the early 16th century, and it meant a second crop of grass grown on the same land after the first had been harvested. It's also known as after crop, after grass, or latter math. Here's an example actually from the poem Aftermath by Longfellow. When the summer fields are mown, when the birds are fledged and flown, and the dry leaves strew the path, with the falling of the snow, with the cawing of the crow, once again the fields we mow, and gather in the aftermath. So as you can see, aftermath means something very different to what it used to mean. Its original meaning had positive connotations, like a bonus crop that can be harvested again. Yet today, when we think of aftermath, this is not what we understand. Today, the meaning only has negative connotations, kind of what's left, the mess that's left behind after an event, a terrible event usually. And some say that we are living in the aftermath of the pandemic. Although truth be told, we're not even living in that understanding, because it's not over, is it? Certainly not here, but especially in other parts of the world. It's causing chaos. Feel it in your heart. I do. Aftermath isn't about starting over. It's about growing from what is already there. No one gets to start over in life. That's just not true. There are no clean slates or blank sheets. We live from where we are. Life goes on from the moment it is in. Aftermath does not mean what follows a disaster, a terrible event. Or doesn't only mean that. It also means a new growth of grass following one or more mowings, which may be grazed, mowed, or ploughed again. And perhaps this concept of aftermath can help us right now in our time and our place and our lives. We have to, metaphorically speaking at least, graze on what we have. We have to mow on and plough on with what we have. We cannot simply begin again. We have all been through a difficult time. There has been much grief on so many levels. And of course, this is not just in the last year or so, but throughout our lives, all of our lives. Feel it in your heart, because I do. And we have to live and we have to grow from what is there, from what we are experiencing now. We can mow another grass from it, but we can't change the field. We have to live from where we are, in this earth that we're planted in now. As I was thinking about this idea of mowing on again, following a difficult time, a barren harvest perhaps, the following favourite of mine by Stanley Kunitz came to mind. The Layers. The Layers by Stanley Kunitz. I have walked through many lives, some of them my own, and I am not who I was, though some principle of being abides from which I struggle not to stray. When I look back, as I am compelled to look before I can gather strength to proceed on my journey, I see the milestones dwindling toward the horizon and the slow fires trailing from the abandoned campsites over which scavenger angels wheel on heavy wings. Oh, I have made myself a tribe out of my true affections, and my tribe is scattered. How shall the heart be reconciled to its feast of losses? In a rising wind, the manic dust of my friends, those who fell along the way, bitterly stings my face. Yet I turn exulting somewhat, with my will intact to go wherever I need to go, and every stone on the road precious to me. In my darkest night, when the moon was covered and I roamed through wreckage, a nimbus clouded voice directed me. Live in the layers, not on the litter. Live in the layers, not on the litter. Though I lack the art to decipher it, no doubt the next chapter in my book of transformations is already written. I am not done with my changes. The poem was written at a pivotal moment in Kunitz's long career. He believed that it spoke of something that was central to his whole experience of being a poet and a person. It was written in response to a personal crisis. He had suffered several griefs, including his mother and two older sisters, as well as several dear friends. It was a time of changing his life, both personally and as a writer. He said this of the poem. I wrote The Layers in my late 70s to conclude a collection of 60 years of my poetry. Through the years, I had endured the loss of several of my dearest friends, including Theodore Rothke, Mark Rothko, and most recently, Robert Lowell. I felt I was near the end of a phase in my life and in my work. The poem begins with two lines that came to me in a dream, spoken out of a dark cloud. Live in the layers, not on the litter. And I suppose from that line, those two lines, the rest of the poem grew. Now I think, certainly in my eyes and my understanding, not that I'm an expert on such things, I think this poem, though, is a wonderful example of aftermath. In both senses of the word, actually. Yes, it's about picking up the pieces after a crisis, but it's also about reaping a second harvest too, from his own life in this example. But isn't that something we can all do? Live in the layers, not on the letter. There is some beautiful wisdom here. Maybe this simple line maybe that's a key to everything, to live in the layers of our lives, the whole of our lives. So often we want to move on and leave behind the litter, the mess, the pain and the suffering. But to do so is to fail to bear witness to our whole lives. I believe that we have to live in our whole lives. We can't just pick and choose, and no matter how hard we try, we can't leave any part of our lives behind. Kunitz was an avid gardener, and maybe it's from this love that the idea of the layers grew. In horticulture, layering is a method of propagation that brings forth new life from the dying or broken stem. And it's this that allows new roots to form, and therefore life goes on. Or perhaps more accurately, life grows on. What do you think? We cannot live in the brokenness of our lives, but we can grow anew from the litter if we live within the layers of our lives. We cannot completely begin anew, nor should we want to. We cannot leave behind what has gone before, nor should we want to. We cannot escape who we are, nor should we want to. It's not about running. The spiritual life is not even one of distance, it's one of depth. It's about finding ourselves at home in the ground at our feet. It's about living in the layers. We can mow and plough once more through the litter and create new life from this. We can truly live and we can truly learn from the aftermath. Life grows on and life goes on. Life moves forward, and this can be a little frightening at times. We might not know which way to turn either. We can feel completely lost. It can all feel discombobulating, as people often say. How often in life do we find ourselves in this place and not know which way to turn? Which road do we take when we come to those forks? Sometimes it's a great big junction, isn't it? 8 lanes or something, but usually it's a fork. And this brings to mind another favourite poem, that classic, The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveller long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing he there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden back. Oh, I marked the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. The road not taken truly is an every man poem, isn't it? An every person poem. It speaks such a universal truth. How often in life do we all meet that fork in the road and have to make a decision? Often not an easy decision. One to walk down that road, but to where no one knows. And of course, for every road that we take, there is at least one other road that we did not take. And I'm sure we all wonder from time to time where that road may well have led. Regrets, I've had a few, yeah, just a few. Now, of course, in every moment of our lives, we have to make small, insignificant decisions. We often make them without even really thinking about them. They're purely instinctive, really. Literally, when we're crossing roads, perhaps. That said, some of the decisions we make are monumental and life-changing. And I suspect in the poem, this fork in the road is one of those big moments, those life-changing moments. And of course, when making these decisions, we cannot have the gift of foresight. Like the path in the poem, we can only see so far ahead. And the future is truly unwritten. We cannot know for certain what is to come. Can we? Even the weatherman gets it wrong, you know. And we blame it on the weatherman. Isn't that a song? The road not taken ends with the immortal words, I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. So the poem ends with this sense of not living with regret. It's about taking the path that will make all the difference, about taking the more challenging path. The path less taken is the one that will lead to the deep and meaningful life. To leave the comfort zone of our established way of being often appears terrifying to us. After all, this is the way we've always done things, or the way that people are supposed to do things. To wander down an uncertain path, the one rarely travelled down, can be pretty frightening. It certainly appears pretty scary to me. No doubt it will be uncomfortable and uneven and a little overgrown. But should we avoid this path? Should we choose the easier, softer way? By avoiding the path that is still partially grassed over, are we choosing life? Are we just making things harder than they need to be? Is it better to choose caution, to just let life happen to us, rather than choose that riskier path that forces us to engage with danger, to live truly alive? Well, that's a decision we all must make. And to make those decisions, to separate one from the other, we need discernment. And that's another interesting word. Here we go. Sorry about this, folks. The word discernment is formed from the Latin word discernere, which means to separate, to distinguish, to sort out. Just think of prospectors panning for gold or sifting through the rocks and the dirt in search of gemstones. They are separating, they are sorting through the muck for the jewels, they are distinguishing, they are discerning. Brings to mind once again images of layering in gardening or raking over ground and ploughing once again, that original meaning of aftermath. Just to me anyway. Discernment is the key to making wise choices. We need to discover what is of value and what needs to be discarded in our minds. We need to discard the dirt and the muck to uncover the gold, the gems, to have clarity of thought so that we can make those decisions in life. This is not easy, especially when we think that of all that information that swims round and round in our lives and in our consciousness and in our unconsciousness. Information just swimming round and round like an enormous shoal of fish. running round and round, swimming round and round, aimlessly in a fish tank of some kind, not really going anywhere. Our lives, our heads, our minds are just so full of stuff. How do we discern what is healthy, what is right? Well, it's simple, We need silence. We need time away from all this information and all these things that pull us in so many directions. We need to be still. We need time to be still. We need time to be silent. We need time to connect to our bodies, to our souls. Let our souls catch up with our bodies, to connect to our breathing, to our breath, to that breath that connects all breath, the breath of all life. We need time in this stillness and this silence to hear that still small voice of calm, a voice less than a whisper, and yet somehow more than silence. We need to awaken to our true consciousness in order to make those sane and sensible decisions about life. We need to learn to separate those things that are of value and those that are not. We need to do this in order to hear that voice that is less than a whisper, and yet somehow more than silence. That voice that has spoken down the ages to those of us that had ears to hear, those that had ears that could hear it, the ears of our heart to be awakened to that voice of love, the language of the heart, to hear it speak through life. Sometimes we need to be still and silent and let our roots grasp soil beneath our ground, to stop running. But that ain't easy, that is hard. The choices we make matter. It matters what we are and what we do. I don't think that God chooses this for us. God offers guidance, the lure of divine love. I believe in that strongly. But it's still up to us to choose the path that we follow, to make that decision and to follow it with action. And often the most rewarding path is the one that is less worn and the one that's more overgrown, the one that seems more treacherous, more frightening perhaps. Often that's the one that's less travelled by. And maybe if we live this way, maybe we're truly living by aftermath. So let's live our lives by aftermath. Let's rake that ground again and try to grow something new. Let's live in the complex layers of our lives and separate the litter. Let's live by discernment and choose the right path as we move forward. Always remembering, of course, that we can always turn again. We can change direction again at any time. Should it turn out that we need to reassess those decisions that we've made, to discern once again, to live again. So let's live by a second harvest and an infinity of harvests perhaps. Let's learn to live in and by aftermath. Let's learn to live in and by aftermath. Amen. I'm going to end this little reflection with a few words of blessing. Because you know what? We need to bless more. Our world needs us to bless more. The people in our lives need us to bless one another more. We need to experience the blessings in life and share them more. And you know what? We can all bless. And we bless by giving our whole hearts to life. So let's begin blessing life and one another today. Let's give our whole hearts to one another and to life. So some final words of blessing from me to you. May the Eternal bless you and protect you. May the Eternal smile on you and favour you. May the Eternal befriend you and prosper you, and may we carry the song of the Eternal with us, and may we do so in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, and in all that we do. Go in love, go in peace. Amen.